past the hour of 8. You're warmly welcome back to the best breakfast show in all of the land. This is 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Well, it's that time of the morning where we crunch some numbers. We look at some data, try and make sense of the figures and the facts. Of course, this is also your election command center, keeping you well informed before, during, and after the election. And with D-Day fast approaching, one of the burning questions that we're looking to explore concerns female participation. We know that it's not very encouraging when you look at the numbers. Well, this 8th Parliament only has some 40 women, evenly split between the NDC and the NPP, so 20 on each side. Well, what has the story been like over the lifespan of the different parliaments? In fact, this is the highest number of female representation that we've ever had. That's in the 8th Parliament. Not too encouraging, but Mr. Ebenezer Nyako of EN Analytics Consulting Limited is back in the hot seat. And in fact, he's part of the Election Command Center at this point. You might have spotted him also on TV3 crunching numbers, giving us some much needed data. Mr. Nyako, good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Everything is fine.
I understand you are now a local celebrity based on your work here at MG. They turn on the radio, they can hear you. They turn on the television, they can see you. But hopefully it's been an enjoyable journey so far.
Yes, sure.
Right.
I've really enjoyed the process. And then I think we're also educating Ghanaians.
That's right.
And letting them understand what the numbers and everything is. Yeah.
Fantastic. And we're doing more of that today as we talk about female participation, assessing the numbers and the story from 1992 all the way through till 2020. So, Mr. Nyako, over to you. Let's talk numbers. Why has it been? In fact, what do the numbers look like? Then we can get into the nitty-gritty and the whys.
Okay. So, today, pray coming here, I mean, the topics were around female participation. But today is more like very close to the elections.
That's right.
Okay, so I would like to give our listeners and viewers a bit of a rundown of a few key points.
Sure.
Okay, and when there is time at the end, we will add the female participation
Absolutely.
To it.
Okay.
So we know that the Electoral Commission has published the list for registration. Okay, so now we want to look at the registration statistics first. We look at what I call two toss-up regions.
Okay.
And then if there is time, we add a female participant. So today it's a bit packed.
Okay.
We are going to look at very, very important three things. The first one is when the registration came in, what are the increases in each region?
Okay.
And what is going to be the split?
Okay.
We look at that one, and then we look at two key regions, which, in my view, are toss-up regions.
Certainly.
And not swing regions. We all already know that Central and Greater Accra are toss-up swing regions. But today we're going to look at two toss-up regions.
Okay.
So we start with the national registration, how it looks like now. So from 1992 to date, we've moved from registered voter of 8.2. Currently, we are doing 18.8 million. Okay. And if you look at the numbers, the rate of increase based on 2020 is 10.2%.
10.2% rate of increase. And if you're watching us on Facebook, Mr. Nyako has also made these graphs available. So for all my serious students like myself, you have your pen out, your notepad out. You can also take a note of the graph.
Yes. So you can see that based on the 2024 published data nationally, the national rate of increase is 10.2%. So that is what we are doing. The registered voters, that is what we are looking for.
Okay.
So now, how does the other regions come in? Okay.
Okay, so just as per the graph, we can see that gradual increase. So from 92 to 96, that was 12.8% increase. This is an increase in the registered the voters.
Yes.
Then it goes up in the year 2000, 15.3%. And then 2004, it actually regressed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because there was a massive voter registration, a national one.
Okay.
We pruned the data, and so that one, there was a national drop.
Certainly, that makes sense. And you have 2008, 20% increase in that voter register list. Then in 2012, 13.5, 2016, 10.3, 2020, 8%, 2024. So is the percentage an increase of the year prior?
Yes.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So it means that relatively this year, a lot of people have registered.
Okay.
Looking at even 2020, it was 8%.
Right.
But this year, nationally, it is 10.2.
Okay.
Which is relatively a higher number compared to 2020.
Certainly.
Okay. So now, we want to look at the increases across some of the regions.
Certainly.
Okay. So now, we want to look at Upper East.
Upper East. And you mentioned that we're going to be looking at two regions that you consider toss-up regions.
Yes.
Now, I know you gave us some education sometime last week, but for those who are only new to the EN Analytics class today, what would you say a toss-up region is? Give us some education there.
So, as I said today, we are not looking at swing regions. Okay, there are two regions which are going to be very key in this 2024 elections, and they are what I've termed as toss-up regions, and we'll come to that, and I'm going to prove why they are toss-up regions.
And you also let us know what a toss-up region is. When we say toss-up, what do we
It
even
means
mean?
50-50.
50-50.
Okay, it means that the person who won the region in the 2020 is not automatically assured of winning that particular region, and they are not Central, and they are not Greater Accra, that are the swing regions. There are two regions coming up.
Okay.
So now we want to look at the Upper East region. Okay, the Upper East region. For the rest, I will just be picking the last of the 3 years.
Sure.
So the Upper East region in 2016 they did 13.6% increase. In 2020 they did 1.6%, and in 2024 they are doing 12.4%. So their total registered voters for the Upper East is 741,000. As you can see it, the graph being displayed. So there is that gradual increase in the Upper East.
But that's interesting to note. So 2016 in the Upper East region, you get a 13.6% rise in registered voters. Then 2020, you get 1.6, very small number.
Low. Yes.
What accounted for that?
There are 3 regions. Okay. The border regions, 2020 was the COVID period, and most of the borders were closed.
Right.
So Upper East suffered a sharp decline because of the COVID, the border that was closed. So you see Western North, Volta, and part of Western, they did relatively very low because the borders were closed, and then the numbers has to, because people couldn't. There are some of our brothers and sisters, for example, who in the Volta region who live there, who couldn't come in and register and all those. So it affected the registration statistics as well.
Okay, then 2024, now we know 12.4%. So it appears that, no border issues, that also makes that correlation clear. All right.
Yes. So they are doing well. Now, when we go to the Upper West, they are also doing the national average. Okay, so they are doing 10.3.
Okay.
When you go to Upper West, currently their total registered voters is 518,000. Okay, an increase of 10.3 over the last election cycle. So you can see that they are it's also they are not below the national figure. So it's relatively a good ratio.
Right.
Now let's go to the northern region. Okay. Now the northern region, they have currently 1.2 million.
1.2 million registered voters in the northern region.
And the increase is 15.2% over that of the 2020 figure.
Okay, so certainly above that average, that national average.
Yes. So if you look at Northern Region, when it comes to the national registered voter, the increase, they did the second highest. Okay. And Northern Region is where Bawumia made the significant inroads in 2020. So if they are now registering 15.2% increase over the 2020 voter, the base, it tells you that it's going to be a very key region to watch. They've put, not this graph, we want to have the yellow graphs.
Okay.
So if you can bring up the yellow graph for the Northern Region.
Okay.
Yes.
So there we have it. This is the north. Okay, no, this is Upper West.
Okay,
all right,
this is
fantastic.
the Northern Region. Yes. So that is what you see. So they are doing 1.2 million in 2024, and the percentage increase is 15.2%. It's a very huge figure. This year they did the second highest. Okay, and if Bawumia is doing very well, like if you take even the 2020, they did 13.9, which was very high. And most of the significant, the party that gained the most of the increase was the NPP.
And so if we're seeing an even higher increase in registered voters, that could inure to the NPP's benefit from what we saw last time.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. The next region is the Northeast.
Okay.
Okay. So the Northeast currently in 2024, they did the highest in terms of increase. They currently they are doing, their population size is a bit low, but they are doing 340,000 registered voters, and they did 17.4%.
17.4%, almost double actually the national average of 10%. Exactly. Another 3% more they would have.
Yeah, so you can see that. When it comes to the Northeast, and that is the home region of Bawumia, it tells you that so where MPP did very well the last time, Northern Region and Northeast, they come in first and second in terms of the growth in registered population in 2024. So it tells you that probably those two regions this time, I suspect they are going in more massively or tilting towards the NPP in these two particular regions.
So when you say toss-up, I know there's another terminology that indicates it's leaning towards another or leaning towards a particular party. So it's a toss-up plus. Then you say...
Yeah, so toss-up for just because they just toss-up, it means that both NDC, either the NDC or the NPP can win.
Okay, so these are purely toss-up. They're not leaning in any particular direction.
Yeah, so I've not come to, we are not just doing the registration dynamics, and then I will use 5 minutes to explain the toss-up.
Certainly.
Yeah. So from north, we go to Savannah. Savannah is currently doing 14.8. Okay, currently their registered voter population for 2024 is 342,000, and they are doing 14.8. Okay. Now, when we move to... Okay, so that is the...
And we can see that again on the graph if you're watching us on Facebook. So the Savannah region also... but interestingly, in 2020, the figure was 18%. So they've had a decline there in the registered voters come 2024.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
And then I see some interesting figures there, but they kind of... It spikes and then it dips. It spikes and then it dips. What accounts for this very interesting graph that we see here from the Savannah region?
Yeah, so it's because in 2020 they did a very high figure. Okay, sometimes so when the base is very high, very large, the rate of increase slows down.
Right.
Okay, so you can see that in 2020 they did a very high rate of increase of 18.0, and that's why we are seeing a modest increase of around 14. But it's relative, even if the 14.8 is very close to the 15, which is very high.
Much.
Okay, so that is the third highest.
Okay.
In terms, even for this year. Okay, so it tells you where Muhammad's region, and that is his region, where Muhammad is coming from, and where Bawumia, you see the voter population sizes. Now, when you move to Ahafo, so for Ahafo and the rest, we'll just go through. Ahafo is doing 13.3% this year. Their voter population is now 359,000. Currently, an increase of 13.3%. Now, when we move to the Ashanti region, currently they are doing 9.1 increase.
Okay.
Compared to...
So we've got Ashanti region up on the board as well. All right.
Yes. So Ashanti region is doing 9.1. Currently the second largest in terms of voter size.
That's right.
Okay. So 3.3. They were 3 million now. They almost 3.3 million. And that is what you see on the graph. So they are doing relatively well. In 2020, they didn't come in for the NPP. You realize that they did just 5.1.
That's right.
Yeah. So the strongholds of the NPP didn't come in that strong in 2020. I don't know whether it was COVID or something, but their rate was very low. But now, I mean, it is appreciable and very close to the national average. So that is good for the NPP because that's their stronghold. Okay.
All right.
So when you go to Eastern this time around is doing 10.3.
So very much in line with that national average.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Eastern is doing 10.3.
And we know the Eastern region will typically tilt towards the NPP. In fact, they get a number of votes from the Eastern region.
Yes. So mostly they do around 59, 60. They're about 61 within that range. So it's a very good. Once the increase are coming in, it's like more people are going to vote within that region, and so it's very good for them. Okay, so the total registered population is 1.8 million in the Eastern region. So a very good region. Now, when you go to the Western North, the increase is 11.5. Currently, their total population is 523,000. So if they put on the graph, you see that Western North, as I said, because it was a border town and it dipped in 2020, but it's increased significantly in 2024, which is above the national average. And so that
we can see that here as well. So for areas where they had border issues because of COVID, those numbers in fact regressed, dropped significantly. In 2020. We see it appreciating above that national average in 2024. Very interesting.
Yes. Okay. Now, when you go to the Western region, the Western region did 9. Okay, so currently their total population size is 1.2 million. Okay, and they are doing 9.2 in terms of growth.
Right.
Okay, modest growth, slightly below their national average, but I can tell you that it's a very significant region. And it's significant
because Western region, today we're not talking about swing, but they are considered a swing region.
Yes, relatively,
because it's usually central Greater Accra, but we see Western, sometimes inserted into the conversation because they have a swing-like nature.
Exactly.
But if they are doing slightly under the national average of 10%, would that be a benefit to, let's say, what will the incumbent be thinking about that rise in number, given that swing nature?
Yes, let's wait for the next 5 minutes.
All right.
I'll answer. I will let you know the answer to that question.
Certainly.
So we now move to the Bono region. Okay. So the Bono region, currently they have 720,000, and then they are doing 10.2.
Right.
And it's Bono region has a specific, a very unique characteristics. Their statistics always seem to match exactly the national average. So nationally, we are doing 10.2, and you look at the Bono region, and in fact, it mimics it exactly 10.2. And if you take their what do we call it, turnout in 2016, 2020, they are exactly the national numbers. So I don't know why they appear to just mimic exactly when it comes to their statistics. I don't know how it happens, but Bono region seems to be a very unique region in terms of statistics. That is something that we can certainly explore further, because what is accounting for that? Is it sheer luck or a fluke, or is there something behind it? We'll examine that. Yes, so maybe more studies have to go into that. Absolutely. Yes. So the Bono East, currently their voter population is 673,000, and then they did 13.2% increase. Okay, so it's a relatively good number for the Bono East region as well. And now the central region, one of the crucial regions, they moved from 1.5 million to 1.75 million, and they did 10.8. I mean, just around the national average.
Yes.
So it's relatively good number, and I think interesting days are ahead of us.
And Central Region, you call the swing of the swings.
Exactly.
When it comes to swinging, they are the pioneers.
Exactly. No one can challenge them.
Right.
Now, when you go to Greater Accra, they are doing 3.7 million, an increase of about 6%. So when you look at Greater Accra, you see that this year is a bit far below the national average.
That's right.
Okay. And it's an interesting statistic, but let's see. Just that in 2020, they did the greatest of increases.
That's right. I'm seeing there 14%.
Yes, they were the highest in 2020. So as I said, maybe because they did one of the high percentage increases, that is what we are seeing, a bit of a drop. But their rate of increase is a bit low. I mean,
right.
Around 8, 9 would have been, but 6 is relative a bit lower. Number.
I mean, is that pointing towards some apathy there in the Greater Accra region? Because if, in the last election cycle, 14%, but like you also showed, it mimics this kind of figures, mimic another region that we looked at where the year before, the election cycle before, had a huge number. So that kind of dropped the numbers for 2024. Is that automatic, though?
What happens is Greater Accra is that maybe this is a sign for the turnout. In Greater Accra region, when the turnout at the end of the 8-year cycle of every ruling party, turnout drops drastically. And when turnout drops drastically, the party in power loses.
So this is a warning sign, warning bells for the incumbent, because I mean, if we're to look at the figure for 2020, juxtapose it against this year's registered voters, I don't know whether Dr. Baumia will switch off of 3FM Sunrise after hearing this analysis, but that means it might not be looking good on D-Day just based off these figures.
Yes, yes. So now the voter region is next. We have their graph. They are currently 1,020,000, and they did just around the national average of around 10.8. So I mean, it's a very good number for the. The voter region, the NDC's World Bank.
That's right.
So I mean, 10.8. Once they are doing the national average or slightly above, I think it's relatively good.
And it's also interesting. They are registered voters above the number in the Ashanti region. So we have the two strongholds. If we're putting them head to head, Volta region decided to come out a bit more than the Ashanti region. Okay, don't lose your appetite. Lose your appetite.
But the difference is that because the Ashanti region has a bigger voter population.
That's right.
Than the.
So they've got at least 2.3 million people more than the Volta region.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. And then what now we want to have a look at is the toss-up regions.
Sure.
Okay. So now I want to look at the toss-up regions. There are two regions that are very key in this year's elections, and they are toss-up. The first one is the northern region, and the second one is the western region.
The northern region and the western region.
They are going to be very key regions. The central regions are swing regions. The central Greater Accra are swing regions, but the northern and the western regions are toss-up regions in the 2024 elections. So, and I'm going to show you, if they can now put in the voting pattern graph for us for the northern regions, I think we can have a look at it.
Okay.
Not this one, the other one, the one that shows the line graph. I just wanted us to have the voting pattern.
Okay, let's look at the voting pattern.
The voting pattern in the northern region.
All right, so we've got an interesting graph on Facebook, but for those of you listening to us only, we'll paint a picture so you can follow along.
Yes, so when you look at the voting pattern in Western region, let me pick it from 2012.
Sure.
Okay, so that we can understand. The NDC did 58.7. MPP did 38.8. In 2016, the numbers for NDC reduced from 58 to 56.1.
Right.
MPP increased from 38.8 to 41.3. Okay. Now, for the NDC, it was a drop of about 2.5. For the NPP, it was about an increase of about 2 points, along the same line. In 2020, NDC dropped further,
right,
from 56.1 to 53.1, a drop of 3%. However, for the NPP, they increased from 41.3 to 45.6.
Okay, so simply put, if you are not watching the graph but you're listening to us now, from 2012, we've basically seen the NDC depreciate, and then we've seen the NPP appreciate.
Yes.
They're going in opposite directions.
Yes. So the NDC decreased from 58.3 to 53.1 within a space of 2 election cycles.
Right.
The NPP increased from 38.3 to 45.6 within just a space of 8 years. Okay, now I'm going to show you why this region is a toss-up. So now we can look at the toss-up graph.
Sure.
For the northern region. Why northern region is a toss-up.
Okay.
For the NPP, you realize that, okay, so we have the graph. Okay. In 2016, they had 286,000. That's the votes they garnered.
Right.
In 2020, they did 409,000. An increase in valid vote of 42.6%.
That's significant.
Very significant for the NPP, and it tells you the rate of growth.
That's right.
That they are having. Now, the NDC, on the other hand, moved from 389,000 to 476,000. And they managed to do just 22.5%. Just like half of what, slightly about half of what NPP did.
Right.
Okay. Now, going into 2024, okay, if they are to do the same rate of growth, okay, what is going to happen is that the NPP is going to have almost 583,300, and the NDC is going to have 583,800. So it's going to be a neck and neck race.
Wow.
In 2024 between the NPP and the NDC.
Now, how confident are you in this analysis, in this data, and the trajectory that we're actually going to see it pan out like this?
Yeah, so you just look at, if you look at the earlier graph, NPP is doing about 4%. Okay, they are currently at 45.6. And just by a 4%, another 4% increase, and they will be at 50.
50, okay.
So you can see that, and it's likely, looking at the registered numbers that came in from the northern region, the second highest, 15% increase, it's likely this is how things are going.
Can we attribute this to the Bawumia factor? I mean, simple and short.
Sure. So this, or everything in the northern region is the summary of it is that Bawumia is making significant inroads in that particular region. Well,
the northern region, just as Mr. Nyarko has said, is going to be very, very key in this particular election. One to watch. A toss-up. And the numbers are so close. Well, we'll all be here.
Yes. Now, so let's look at the western region. Okay, so the second crucial region where we are going to see different dynamics is the western region.
Sure.
Okay. If you look at the western region, the difference between the NPP and the NDC in 2020 was just 41,000. Okay.
This is on the presidential.
At the presidential level.
And you can also see that on the screen.
Okay. So let's start also from 2020.
Sure.
2012. Okay. Now, the NDC won in 2012, 50.24%. And the MPP had 47.69%. In 2016, Nana Addo came with that big hope message. He had 55.8%. NDC had 41.5%.
Okay.
In 2020, a sharp rise for the NDC in the western region. They had 46.1%, and then the MPP dropped significantly.
That's right.
To just above the 50% mark, so 50.9%. So now let's look at what we are the analysis for the western region.
Sure.
So if we look at the same rate of growth in the western region as we did for the northern region, this is how the dynamics look like. In 2016, between 2016 and 2020, the NDC did 39.4 rate of growth on their valid votes.
Right.
The NPP only managed 14.4. Okay. So if this trend is to continue, that is based on my assumption that if this trend is to continue,
and that is on condition that this trend continues.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. The NPP is going to have around 503,000 or just above 503,000, and the NDC is going to have in the region of 550,000.
So even though the Western region, you describe it as a toss-up, there is a slight advantage here for the NDC.
Yes, so the NDC is slightly favored to win the Western region come 2024. That is, it's a close call, but NDC is slightly favored to win. So you can see that when you come to the North and the West, they are going to offset each other. As Bawumia gains and do very well in the Northern region, the NDC is going to do also very well in the Western region, and their influence will offset each other. These are the dynamics in the Northern and the Western regions.
This is when numbers become truly exciting and interesting, that we're able to compute and then come out with a certain outcome. So we put that down. Western region, according to EN Analytics, is slightly favored to win that region, but still very much a toss-up because we know how the voting pattern can sometimes be skewed, and we don't know why. I mean, last-minute efforts are being made by all parties to still woo and win some believers.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is our what I have for you today.
Fantastic. Very interesting. We've learned about swing regions. Today we looked at some two big toss-up regions, Northern region, Western region. Keep these numbers close to your chest. Let them know that Mr. Nyarko did the computation and the analysis, and this was the final verdict. So I hope we can now talk quickly about female participation, and we wrap it up for today's EN Analytics class.
Yeah, so I'll wrap up, but I don't have the graphs for that one, but
certainly, yes.
I think what we have done is that even though we started with just about 8% in 1992, we are currently doing around 14.56% in 2020. Okay, the rate of increase is not is slower than we had anticipated.
Right.
Okay, and if we had done something in the range currently, almost about. We've done 8 election cycles. If we've done something around 20, okay, looking at the ratio of females, women that we have in Ghana, I mean, they are slightly above male.
That's right.
Okay, so they are just around 50.7 or 51%. So if we can do something.
Okay.
Okay.
So we do have the numbers that we can reference. If you're watching us on Facebook, you'll see that it's the Fourth Republic by region breakdown, and we've got Greater Accra all the way down to the Upper West region, where we're seeing in fact, zero representation at certain times. Okay, Mr. Nyarko.
Yeah, so you can see that when it comes to regions, certain regions are doing very well. Okay. The Greater Accra region, it always comes in first.
That's right.
Okay, so they've done about 48% in total. Okay, the last election cycle of 2020, they did about 13 MPs were elected in the region. 2016, they did 10 of them were elected. So the Greater Accra region, I mean, we have to give them their due.
Right.
They've really done well. Now, when it comes to the Ashanti region, they did 5. But we have to applaud the Ashanti region. All the 5 came in 2020 came from the Ashanti region.
I see.
Okay, so even though they couldn't get others in the other region, but at least
they maintained what they had.
They did well. So for the Ashanti region, we have to applaud them for at least, even though because it's the stronghold of the NPP, at least 5 of them came from that region.
Sure.
Okay, now Central region had 6. Okay, and Central, looking at the number of constituencies and the voter base, I think they do well. Okay, if you look at the graph, when you go down there in the upper region,
so you go into the mic for me so we can always hear.
Yes, the upper east, the upper west, the northern region, you realize that the numbers are slightly down.
Absolutely. So it's dwindling. Central 6, Volta 5, Eastern 4, Western 1, Brong Ahafo.
Yes.
2, Northern.
Yeah, so I think there has to be some form of encouragement. Yes, we have to encourage our brothers and sisters in the north, and then so that we can have a lot more female participation from that region. One thing I also like to say is that when it comes to NPP, NDC, these two main parties, the NPP has done relatively well compared to the NDC.
In terms of the female representation?
In parliament, right. Okay. The NDC has never outperformed the NPP. Okay. The best that they have is to equal their record. Okay, so if you look at like the 2020, both had 2020.
That's right.
Okay, so that is the best that both have had. And it tells you that the NPP, when it comes to the female aspirant winning on their platforms, it's really a bit easier than the NDC, and so we have to commend the NPP for that achievement. We can't for over 2 decades, and if when it comes to that aspect, and the NDC has not been able to overtake them, I think we have to give them their due respect in that regard.
Absolutely. Well, what the NDC will counter with that is they have put a female in one of the highest positions as a vice presidential hopeful. So I believe in certain quarters that is how they also counter it. That okay, well, we're making that bold step. Very soon we could even have that same lady, trying to fill the shoes of president. I think that one they say negates. You can bring 100 women. They have a vice president. But also interesting to note that this particular parliament has the highest female representation that the country has ever seen. And this has 40 female members of parliament, and like you've said, 14.5%, which is an increase from the 7th parliament, which had 13% representation of women. So as a country as well, I think as the parliaments progress, we're doing far, far better. And that graph also there indicates the numbers on the NPP and on the NDC side, what the numbers look like. So it would appear that Mr. Nyarko is right, the NPP having that advantage over the NDC as far as fielding women for these positions.
Yeah, so, and I think there is a slight increase year on year, election cycle year, yes, but the one significant discovery is that the percentage of female MPs aspirants is the same as the number of MPs in parliament. So if you take for this year, in 2020, the number of female aspirants was 14.5 or 14.4, and we ended up with 14.5 in parliament.
Okay.
So this year, to surprising, the number is still 14 point something.
Oh.
So I don't know if we are going to repeat the same cycle,
or maybe even regress.
Yeah. So the ratio at the parliamentary side has to go up. At the aspirant side has to go up,
and that will get more, hopefully, in the house.
Yes, over the cross line. So that is where the problem is. If we can have a lot more at the aspirant level, then a lot of them can cross over and be elected into parliament. So it's a very interesting statistics and data to have a look at. And I think if you look at the graph, we are making modest gains.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying we are stagnant, we are making modest gains, but
absolutely.
I think the target should be at least between 20 and 25%. If you can get those numbers, I think it will be helpful as a country, for us as a country.
Fantastic. It's something that we're looking to explore further, put some more flesh on the bones, and talk about it some more. What can be done? Well, Mr. Nyarko says that even at the aspirant level, if we have more women, if the numbers are more, well, the data suggests that we will have more actual physical female bodies in the House of Parliament. Very, very interesting stats today. We've learnt about the two main toss-up regions and also a look at the trajectory as far as the female story is concerned. Mr. Nyarko, thank you so much for your time this morning. You're a very busy man, so I know there's going to be more data crunching, more numbers crunching across our various platforms. You're on TV today, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You're not tired yet. I said you're not tired yet.
No, we are in the home stretch.
Absolutely.
So we are trying to cross over by Saturday.
Well, we're learning a lot, certainly, from Mr. Nyarko, and the fun continues. We'll be engaging with him some more. And across all our various MG platforms, you can watch, listen to us. This is your Election Command Center, putting you at the center of our discussions before, during, and after the elections. Mr. Nyarko, again, thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Nyarko is the founder and CEO of EN Analytics and Consulting Limited. He's an actuarial analyst and a data scientist. So you know that you're in safe hands when it comes to numbers crunching. Thank you again.